Hello everyone! I've already talked quite a bit about the Oppo Find X9 Pro on this channel, but I think it's finally time to gather everything together and give you a complete final review. So let's jump into it. In my first impressions, I mentioned that up until the very last moment, I wasn't even sure if I should order the Oppo Find X9 Pro, especially since there were a lot of posts online suggesting that in terms of the camera, it might not be worth it. And you know how it is. When you are buying a device with your own money, you start analyzing what exactly you want to test and whether you will have a realistic chance of reselling it afterwards. And I have to say, I'm really glad I decided to buy it because I found out that the Pro version doesn't have to be a cut-down model at all, and it doesn't mean you must go for the Ultra, especially since for now, the Ultra versions still aren't available on the global market. And will that change? We will see. It's actually funny how we sometimes complain about the lack of changes in design. And then, when those changes finally appear, they immediately stir up controversy. And that's exactly the case here. The rectangular camera island probably has just as many fans as opponents, but one thing is certain: it's clean, it doesn't stick out, and overall it doesn't bother the eye at all. For me, it's a pretty safe and neutral look. As for the build quality, I really can't complain either. And the IP69 water resistance rating is an additional plus. The display also doesn't bother me at all. It's flat, 10-bit, and even though the resolution is lower, just Full HD+, it's honestly hard to complain about it. The bezels are really thin, the colors are well balanced, and the brightness is more than sufficient. According to the producer, it can reach up 3600 nits in HDR content. Of course, we rarely see numbers that hide in real-world use, but both the typical brightness and high brightness mode are very solid, making the phone comfortable to use indoors and in direct sunlight. Thankfully, the automatic brightness works great. When you wake the phone in the dark room, the screen doesn't blind you, and when moving from bright to dim environments, it responds quickly and smoothly to lighting changes. The PWM dimming frequency is 2160 Hz, so if someone is sensitive to flickering, it's something to keep in mind. Luckily, in the settings, there is an eye protection section where you will find several options that improve viewing comfort and reduce eye strain. There is also a change on the biometrics front. Now we have an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. Last year it was an optical sensor, so the difference is really noticeable, especially in terms of speed. The heart of the new Oppo Find X9 Pro is the MediaTek Dimensity 9500. This is basically become a tradition. Ultra versions get Snapdragon, while Pro versions get MediaTek. Opinions on this are quite divided. Some people won't accept anything but Snapdragon, while others take a more relaxed approach. From my experience, I really can't complain. Performance is top-notch. The user experience is further enhanced by the system Android skin, ColorOS 16, which in this version is even more refined. Transparency effects are tasteful and animations are very smooth. The interface is similar to OnePlus Oxygen OS, so anyone who has used it before will feel right at home. And the haptics? Some of the best on the market, very precise with excellent feedback. When it comes to AI options, I've already talked about the available AI features and how my global Asian version works in my first impressions video. If you haven't seen that yet and are curious, I recommend checking out that video. When it comes to temperatures, it's also very decent. I managed to heat the phone up to around 43 degrees, and that wasn't during synthetic tests, but while taking photos and recording 4K video at 60 fps for a total of about 30 minutes. The ambient temperature wasn't 30 degrees in the shade, more like 24, but I still think that's a pretty good result. The X8 Ultra reached over 47 degrees in the same amount of time. In synthetic tests, like 3D Mark Extreme Stress Test, the device heated up to 41 degrees. As for additional features, the phone comes with IR Blaster for controlling home devices, an action button that can be adjusted to a specific function, and a dedicated camera button for things like zooming or burst shots. Personally, I don't use the camera button much, as its placement isn't most comfortable for me. If it were closer to the bottom edge, it would be much easier to reach. Another handy feature is the OConnect app, which lets you quickly transfer files between your Oppo and, for example, iPhone. Support-wise, things remain the same as on the Oppo Find X9 Pro. 5 years of system updates and 6 years of security patches. In terms of signal strength, I really can't complain. It's a very solid performer. Even in places where some globally phones struggle to maintain a stable connection, the Oppo handles it very well. As for call quality on the Oppo Find X9 Pro, they are no sibilants and the volume is boosted, but there is a noticeable mid-range lift and slightly toned down heights to reduce sibilance, which results in a slightly narrow sound profile. I've used phones that sounded much more natural in this regard. As for the speakers, they are just okay. They can get quite loud, but sometimes it feels like the higher volume is compensating for certain shortcomings in sound quality. Particular focus on high tones, which can be annoying over time. Compared to latest Samsung or iPhone devices, they are still not in the same league. Bluetooth codecs support isn't perfect either. While we have LDAC, LHDC, aptX and aptX HD, unfortunately there is no aptX adaptive, which I tested with my Denon Per Pro headphones. It does appear in the developer options, but you can't force it to work. And now let's move on to the camera. I've already shared a lot of information about the camera in my previous comparisons, but not everyone has seen those. So let me give you a full, clear summary. This year, almost the entire camera setup, except for the ultra-wide, has been upgraded. Last year, the difference between the Oppo Find X9 Pro and the OnePlus 13 was very small, and since the OnePlus was cheaper, many people just went for that. With the X9 Pro, the cameras have been noticeably improved, making the difference from its predecessor and OnePlus 15 more obvious. I've already ordered the OnePlus 15, so once it arrives, I will test how the cameras perform. The main camera on the X9 Pro is the LYT-828, the same sensor used in the Vivo X300 Pro. The level of detail is impressive, although sometimes in automatic mode the photos are a little too sharp. Like on the X8 Ultra, the X9 Pro also tends to produce brighter images that can sometimes look too bright in certain scenes. This had been a known issue in Oppo phones for a while. It hasn't really been fixed in auto mode, so occasionally you need to manually adjust the exposure, but luckily the slider is easily available. In these situations, I find the master mode works best. In my opinion, this is Oppo's strongest feature, partly because the photos look very natural, no aggressive HDR, no AI, but this also limits the zoom to 10x. Apart from Master Auto mode, there is also a Pro mode, which gives you much more control over the entire shot. Master mode also allows you to choose RAW format, so you can fine-tune the final image exactly how you want. Additionally, the Oppo Find X9 Pro has an automatic high-resolution mode that can capture photos up to 50 megapixels, but you need to enable it in the settings first. The phone automatically decides whether to save the image in higher or lower resolution. In brighter conditions, it will use the high resolution without any manual adjustments. If you want every photo to be taken at the maximum resolution, you need to enter a separate mode and force it there. I'm not complaining about the ultra-wide camera, although I'm fully aware it's nothing special. But let's be honest, one of the few phones that currently has a really good wide angle is the Vivo X200 Ultra. Fortunately, I rarely use a wide angle, so the lack of major improvements in the X9 Pro doesn't bother me that much. It's just a decent lens with decent detail. More significant changes have been made to the telephoto lens. It features a Samsung HP5 sensor with a resolution of 200 megapixels and minimum focusing distance of 9 centimeters. The shots turn out really good, especially in good lighting conditions. Capturing both close-up object and more distant scenes is a pleasure. But is it the best telephoto on the market? No, it doesn't reach the level of the HP9 sensor in my opinion, but in most situations you will still be very satisfied with it. You can also use the telephoto lens for macro shots, but it takes a bit of patience. The results are solid, but it's not as quick or intuitive as on the Vivo X300 Pro. Sometimes you will need to take a few shots to get it just right. Plus, with the more complex backgrounds, the Oppo can struggle to focus, and you might need to switch to manual focus. Zoom is another area where the Oppo can be a bit inconsistent. Up to 10x, it performs really well. Beyond that, results vary, sometimes great, sometimes noticeably worse, especially past 30x. At 60x, the AI zoom kicks in. You can turn it off, but honestly, it's better to leave it on, because results without it are even more unpredictable. Hopefully, a software update will improve this in the future. However, there are areas where Oppo really stands out, especially when it comes to portraits. They look very natural and contain a lot of facial details, but make sure to turn off the default beauty effect because it can change things quite a bit. The subject background separation is excellent. They are some of the most natural portraits on the market, right up there with the Oppo Find X9 Ultra. There is also a cool AI feature called AI Relight, which allows you to improve your portrait through intelligent light optimization. It's worth trying. Selfies with the front camera are really good, quite natural and have a lot of details. Just remember to turn off the default beauty effect. Portrait mode does a decent job separating her from the background, but it's not perfect. Night shots also perform very well. The auto night mode kicks in exactly when it's needed. Shots are detailed and color temperature is usually on point, although in tricky lighting conditions, some images can lean a bit toward orange tint. As for flare and reflection control, it's okay, but still not quite at the level of what Vivo phones offer. Shots or moving subjects come out really well, both in good and challenging natural light. Oppo also has an action mode, which speeds up the shutter even more. Under artificial lighting, you might see a few more motion blurred shots, especially with the telephoto lens, but overall it's still one of the better phones for capturing motion shots. The problem appears when light gets really low. Then in action mode, night mode automatically turns on, which significantly slows down the shutter speed. As a result, shots become more prone to blur. It almost feels like a software bug because the Oppo Find X9 Ultra doesn't have this problem. And now let's talk about the video. The Oppo Find X9 Pro can record up to 4K at 120 fps, which is great, for example, for high-quality slow motion. You can record in HDR on both the front and main cameras, and when recording in 4K 60 fps, you can smoothly switch between the front and rear cameras. There isn't a dedicated portrait video mode, but you can tap the depth of field icon before recording to force a portrait effect, but the resolution drops to 4K 30 fps. In Pro Video mode, you can adjust all the settings manually, record in logarithmic profile, even in 4K 120 fps, and preview LUTs, although the LUT effect isn't applied in the actual recording. As for the video quality, colors are vibrant and the dynamic range is really good, but personally I feel the image can be slightly over-sharpened at times, similar to Vivo phones, but overall the quality is very good. Night video is also decent, noise is well controlled and colors stay true. The stabilization works well, although I still think it's not at the level of the iPhone. Okay, 60 fps. Now there is a main lens. We go to ultra wide, 1x, 3x. The maximum zoom is 18x. And now stabilization. 4K 60 FPS. Now the sun is behind the clouds, so it will be difficult to show you towards sun. And here we can pause, we can take photo, and we can switch to the main camera. And maybe now the stabilization during running. Okay, 60 FPS front-facing camera, worse lighting conditions, because now in Malta it's almost 5, so I think in 10-15 minutes will be dark. So you can see how it looks like in that kind of conditions, and of course now running, so you can see the stabilization. "4K 60 FPS front-facing camera at night." Now there is a fill light from screen, you can see that on my glasses, and adaptive frame rate is turning off, and the conditions are really difficult because now we have only one light here, you can see that, so you can see how it looks like in that kind of conditions. When it comes to battery, Oppo has really won this year by offering a 7500 mAh cell, not only for Chinese market but also globally. This is actually the first phone where I've managed a full 9 hours of screen on time, something no other smartphone I've tested have ever achieved. Some users can squeeze out even more, but for me, in everyday use, it consistently lasts about a day and a half. Battery life is definitely one of this phone's biggest highlights. In my global Asian version, the charger comes in the box with a Hong Kong plug, but it works fine in UK or Malta, so that's a nice bonus. The charging speed is 80 watt wired and 50 watt wireless. In just 30 minutes, I reached about 52%, and it took me 1 hour and 10 minutes to fully charge. Considering the huge battery capacity, this is a good result. To sum up, the Oppo Find X9 Pro is a really interesting option on the global market. Compared to its predecessor, there are a lot of changes, and this year the Pro version has really come close to the Ultra version. We get a new design, a flat screen, an ultrasonic fingerprint reader, an extra camera button straight from the Ultra series, a fantastic battery that could be a game changer for many, and heavily redesigned camera setup that's now much closer to its cousin, the Vivo. Of course, the camera isn't perfect. It has its strengths and weaknesses, which I've already discussed, but for about 80% of users, it will be more than enough. And if you want to, you can also buy the teleconverter that can really boost the whole shooting experience. So, thank you very much for watching. As always, I encourage you to subscribe, leave a comment if you want to. The more people subscribe, the more motivated I am to keep making these videos. So, take care and see you next time.